And when stars are in light, the weeper, we would know.
Hey, we're live, and I just realized I'm wearing the same shirt as in that picture. How embarrassing! I hate that.
I can.
All right, so
I cannot hear you, Matt.
You cannot hear me. Now, can you hear me? Hey, Shay, can you hear me?
All of a sudden, I can't hear you.
It was just working before. Can anyone hear me? If you're watching here, put in the comment box. Can you hear Matt? Can you hear Mike? I'm Matt, by the way. I'm gonna wait and see what Shay's saying. Someone just said they can, but can they hear? They can hear. Okay, they can hear us both, but you can't hear me. Interesting. Well, that's not good, Mike. Can you hear me now? Do you have headphones? All right, so while Mike puts on his headphones, let me do a quick introduction. You're welcome to the Improving Sales Performance live cast. I am actually broadcasting live. I am in a hotel restaurant that is currently closed that they were nice enough to let me use. So I'm going to try to mute myself when I'm not talking so that you don't have to hear the background noise. And hopefully Mike can hear us now. I'm super excited. Mike, can you hear us? Can you hear? Hello? Mike, you might want to get out and come back in. Shay, maybe you can try to get a hold of Mike.
Hello.
And
hello.
We can hear you. We got you. We hear you. Shay, why don't you try to get a hold of Mike? Hang on.
I can't.
Yeah. Hopefully.
Everything was fine backstage, and now all of a sudden it's quiet. I'm muted.
Okay, so Mike's gone. So Mike and Shay are going to try to work all that out, and then we'll get back to him. Let me introduce Mike. Let me go through the formal introduction while he comes back. Mike Paterson is a good friend. I've known Mike a long time. I'm excited to talk about this topic with him because I think that he'll have a lot of really interesting comments, things that I think real managers and business owners can really identify with, because the topic is on structure and how to best organize your operation so that you can have success. So Mike attended the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Upon graduation, he became a sports writer and editor at the Freeport Journal Standard before he was hired on as the promotions assistant in a station in Milwaukee. From his beginnings in Milwaukee, he's always had leadership positions, management positions in Austin, Texas, Houston, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia, Minneapolis, St. Paul, St. Louis, all under the age of 40. Mike, are you back? Can you hear us?
I'm back. Sorry about that. I don't
Awesome.
know what happened, but it's.
I'm doing your intro. So.
Oh, thank you.
In 2013, he returned to Rockford, Illinois as the general manager and managing shareholder of Midwest Family Broadcasting. He's held almost every role at a radio station, including filling in as an engineer once. That's a good story for another time, but he actually had to do that. Like I said, during his stops in Atlanta, where he worked with Cox Media Group and developed the digital early stage social media, like as Facebook was becoming Facebook stage, and interactive strategies for their radio group sales operations. Mike holds an MBA in finance and marketing, and locally, he serves or has served on the board of directors of the Rockford Chamber of Commerce, the Literacy Council, United Way, Gigi's Playhouse, and the Blackhawk Area Council of the Boy Scouts of America. Mike currently serves as the past chairperson of the Rockford Area Economic Development Council and a public and private partnership. And that's just awesome. And I think anytime you can give back like that, that's a good thing. And I'm really glad that you're able to hear us and that we can have this conversation. I was saying during our technical difficulties, I'm actually really, really excited to have this conversation with you specifically, because this is something you and I have spent a lot of time talking about recently. So this isn't a forced issue at all, a forced conversation. This is we're going to give people a little bit of a peek into the things that you and I sometimes talk about. Mm-hmm. So let's just jump in. Describe the sales structure that either you have now or the sales structure that is fairly common in media sales. And as you describe it, tell us what you like about it, why it works, and what are some of the benefits of it.
Yeah, currently we're on the traditional plan where it's director of sales with a bunch of AEs that do everything. So we expect them to be jacks of all trade. And really, being in the state of Illinois, we were pretty COVID restricted. So we were really waiting. We did a lot of background work and in a lot of ways waited till right about now to start moving some chess pieces around, because we didn't want to be disruptive to our customers. Since I got to Rockford in 2013, the first thing out of my mouth when it came to advertising sales and sales structure was, we must create customers. I don't care about a one-time sale or a two-time sale. It's how do we make sure we get them for 3, 4, 5, 6 years and count on that recurring revenue. And we've been really successful at that. But now as the opportunities are changing and it's not just a 30 or a 60 or a promotion on an AM FM station, and we're able to sell everything of the big 6 in digital, from geofencing, reach extension, SEO, you name it. We're looking at having to get some specialists on the sales floor and really divide up amongst hunters, farmers, and then, I've dubbed it gatherers. And traditional radioes at times are really gatherers. They go gather up their orders. They talk to the agencies, or they talk to the direct clients that they've worked with for years, and they gather up this month's budget and they put it in. That's a skill set that's needed, because as I've learned the hard way, when you blow up a sales department and you don't have revenue, it's really hard to pay the bills. And we lived through that at Midwest Family starting in about 2011 in one of our markets, where we had a sales manager come in and really not have a plan, but run off a lot of managers. And we're finally getting some stability in that market in 2021. So how do we be thoughtful about preserving our long-term customers in the Midwest? We hate change, while staffing up and being careful of the cost of sale to put in some really good hunters that can call on non-traditional radio clients that might need our services to market their products business to business in other parts of the country.
Yeah. So let's go a little, I want to like go a little deeper. So let me ask you some questions. So just to restate,
Yep.
The current model that you have would be the traditional model with a sales leader, whether that's a director of sales or head of sales, whatever, director of sales with salespeople.
Correct.
And if we want to grow revenue, the standard thinking was always, well, add salespeople, right? I mean, big armies beat little armies, as the expression famously goes. All right. In that environment, what is it that you really pay salespeople to do? What is it that you want them to do? And what is it that they end up doing? Like, where do they spend most of their time?
In that traditional environment, they really end up maintaining and managing relationships. And in a lot of ways, they're playing defense against somebody else coming in and taking that monthly budget. We tend to talk a lot about new business. At the end of the day, it's maybe 10% of a veteran AE's time. And they don't really ever get hit with it till they get a big cancellation. We had an AE on our team in Rockford 3-4 years ago. He had two $100,000 a year accounts. And in market 160, those are big accounts. Well, at one of the accounts, the marketing director changed out and all of the marketing was outsourced to another community with no connections here. And the other one, he sold the business. And within 3 months, the gentleman had $200,000 of attrition, and he did not have the new business funnel because new business was always just a good idea. We talked about it. We gave strategies, but you didn't get rewarded for the new business. So as we go forward, how do we start putting those parameters in place to reward for what we want, not what we've always done?
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, most media, most radio stations, TV stations, anyone really selling any sort of advertising is always very focused on new business development because there is first of all, you want to grow the business. And second of all, there is natural attrition that happens, right, from people coming and going. That's just the nature of the business. And when you even with aggressive commission structures or aggressive pay structures for sellers to do more new business, it doesn't happen, and not at the level that they would want it to happen, or that or leadership wants it to happen. And if you study, and I know you have, and we have other clients that have too, what you learn is that they're spending an awful lot of time doing things to maintain, to say exactly what you said, to maintain their accounts, to retain business. So really, the sales department, the way it's currently structured, is a retain focus, is a retain structure versus a growth structure. I mean, if what salespeople do is, if what hunters do is uncover desired business results, present solutions, and close business, what percentage of their week are they doing just those three things? Uncovering desired business results, presenting solutions, or closing business? What percentage just doing those? What do you think?
I would say we're probably in that 10 to 15% range.
Right. And imagine how much better business would be if you were at 50% of their time spent doing that, or 60%.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And, part of it is the legacy structure of AM, FM radio sales, regardless of how many other products we have, because why did a lot of us get into this business? Quite frankly, we got into the business because we loved being at the radio station.
Right.
And we were able to move in that direction. But now as we've all learned to work remotely and perform tasks, it's how do we focus on providing the support that a good seller needs, and then hiring people that are able to trust people behind the scenes to get the job done so they can go make new friends and sell more advertising.
So one of the things, so this is the Improving Sales Performance live cast, and we're talking about how we grow revenue and how we improve sales performance. And so and Mike, to your point before about when you mentioned how a manager did this and the effect the 10-year impact it had from 2011 to 2021 on the station because they didn't really have a plan. We should be real clear that these are not startup situations that we're talking about. There's already revenue, right? If we were starting from scratch, we might structure it completely different, but we're not starting from scratch. And so we have to preserve and grow, not just, say, okay, we're blowing the whole thing up. We can't do that. It's not an option.
No. And that's where I think the biggest challenge as you try to go from a sales structure that never really evolved over 30 years. If you walked into a radio station in 1988 and then in 2018, you might see the same structure that you would 30 years later. The opportunity is, how do you change it? The challenge is, how do you make sure you have the revenue coming in to pay the bills of everything from electricity, and it's not just whether it's you own one market and operate one market, or you have 10 markets, because if you go through and make wholesale changes in 10 and your revenue falls, then you're finding something to cut. That's internal. The external side is we've spent 30, 40, 50 years telling people radio, 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 and now we had one tool. Now all of a sudden we're trying to convince a client we've talked to for 10 years, or in my case back in Rockford going on 8, hey, I know I branded myself as the radio expert and can help you with that. By the way, I've added some other tools to my tool belt. How do I work with you on that? And sometimes people don't want to hear that conversation. So that requires marketing and advertising that we've never been very good at from a sales standpoint within our industry.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about, so what's the solution? So if scale, which is a very common, I feel like that word's thrown around a lot lately. So let me give you a definition. Let's define scale as the ability to grow revenue without having to grow expenses or add people at the exact same pace. Right? I mean, That's what scale is. We're going to grow revenue and we're not going to grow expenses at the same pace or add people at the same pace. I would say that most media sales department are built for growth, but they're not built to scale, right? Because they typically grow revenue, but growing that revenue means just adding people. And so there's no more profit being dropped to the bottom line.
Ding, ding. Yeah. That's the challenge is, say you've got 8 people on a sales staff and you want to add 2 to get more revenue. You're putting the upfront cost of their monthly guarantees or salary or however you structure your comp plans before you get revenue, because we know it's 90 to 100 to 150 day turnaround to get good stuff in the pipeline. This isn't a one call close in most places. So there's an investment up front, which can hurt your cost of sale, versus somebody walking in with a book of business within 2 weeks that gets it done.
So one of the things that we've talked about, and in the sales and in the impact sales leadership system, on the part on sales structure that we've spent some time on, is what if we were break down the job? What is it that we're really talking about? And so we'd say it's generating leads, selling solutions, and serving clients. Those are really the 3 things that we have to worry about: the front end, the middle, and the back end. Generating those leads, selling solutions, delivering, serving clients. With that in mind, what do you think, without giving away too much, information, what do you think might be a better way to structure to grow revenue, to scale revenue, and to be more to deliver better results, and to deliver better results both for your clients as well as for your own company?
Yeah, I think the best way to do it is some form of hybrid model where you've got a couple really good hunters that can go prospect and close the big game so to speak. And then there's a team behind them that makes sure everything gets done. Because if somebody's really good at cultivating and developing customers, I don't want them worrying about their SEO keywords. They need to be in the loop and can check with the team and be a part of it. But their real talent is out making their next customer, whether that's a networking event, whether that's a golf outing, whether that's simply, it could be as easy as picking up a bar tab. And then there's another part of that where there are some traditional customers that just want to buy 30s and 60s. And then how do you have, I don't want to just label it, but they're the delivery drivers. They're out gathering up the orders and taking care of them. And they're more of a do-it-yourselfer type of person that's going to go make sure these 20 people are taken care of. And if they spent $1,000 a month this year, they're going to do it again next year and make sure their copy runs right and we invoice them correctly. While you spend the time on the other side of the business, making sure that you can scale it with a reasonable expense structure that generates a return on revenue.
Yeah, years ago, we wrote a white paper. I don't even know how many years ago this is. I should check and we should post it. I bet it was 15 years ago on the lone wolf salesperson. Mm-hmm. And that was the structure that a lot of industries, including the media industry, but a lot of industries really had, where the salesperson was 100% responsible for doing absolutely everything, from finding their own lead to getting their appointments to uncovering the needs or the desired business results, to building a proposal and coming up with the idea and solution and presenting it, closing it, renewing it, fulfilling it, everything. And to your point, 2018, if you look at it, it's probably just the same, right? Hasn't changed much. And so to the extent that you can do what you're suggesting, Mike, where you could break it up a little bit and say, okay, I'm going to expect you to do this part, and I'm going to get another person who will be your teammate, right? They're going to do this part, and together we're going to, and so it's no longer a lone wolf. It's more like a wolf pack.
It's exactly that. And it's also gets into the talent part of it and identifying the talent in the salesperson or the business developer who is comfortable allowing teamwork and they don't have to control everything. Then there's another side of that lane divider where they can't just dump something on somebody's desk and expect them to get it done without the details of what happens. And I've seen it where you give somebody an assistant and they just dump it and the assistant gets overwhelmed because they don't know what they're supposed to do. And that doesn't help the customer. It makes the sales rep feel like they can do more, but you're not constructively doing teamwork. So you've got to hire for that talent of being able to work together, not the lone wolf where I'm just going to solve it myself.
I heard someone say to me recently, we were having a similar conversation, and they said, you think about it, if you're going into surgery, you'd have a doctor and you'd have an anesthesiologist. Mm-hmm. The same person isn't doing both. They're both really important positions. They both are critically needed in order for this to work out well. But wouldn't it freak you out if the doctor was also the anesthesiologist? I mean,
100%. I mean, and right now, if you think about it, the analogy I've used, our reps are kind of the GPs, the general practitioners, family docs. But if you have a heart issue, you want to see the cardiologist. So but your general practitioner, your family practice doc is going to stay in touch with the cardiologist because they're going to be the front line. So that's really where these business developers, new talents come in. And then they know that, this person today, he needs or she needs an orthopedic. And I'm going to refer that, whether that could be SEO, whether it could be social media management. And then where's that team go, whether they're in your building on your payroll or they're a vendor for a third party that you can refer to and help get stuff done.
So this is a big issue. This is an issue that is not going to be solved during this live cast. No. And it's certainly, this is one that probably every media company right now is talking about and grappling with and thinking about what's the right way to do it for their situation. What advice would you give to those that are in that situation?
Be thoughtful. and don't be slow, but don't rush. Have an urgency to it, because it's going to change a year to 2 years from now. And as a radio industry, if that's our core, we're going to watch 4 to 5% revenue vanish over the next 2 to 3 years, regardless of the public health situation. So what can we do to be of service to the community that has a bunch of needs? It's the old, it's the jobs to be done theory, the Clay Christensen of what job is the customer asking us to do. And a lot of times the customer is asking us to help with their marketing and advertising, but they don't necessarily need a radio schedule. And that's just my 25 years coming out of saying a radio schedule. But the customer is asking us to help with their marketing and communications. How do we make sure that the people know we have the tools to do that, while at the same time preserving what got us to this level, and not make a mistake of some of the other legacy medias?
Yeah, I think if I'm hearing you correctly, with the whole have urgency, but don't go too fast, is commit to a process to follow, not necessarily commit to a structure to have, right?
Correct.
I mean, commit to the process to follow, because by committing to the process, you leave yourself the opportunity to make adjustments and changes and pivots where you need, because who knows? I mean, I can't predict the future. I don't know what technology is going to be available or what the appetite is for the buyer, for the consumer and the customer, but the process will lead you to the right result.
Absolutely. And the ability to call an audible at the line of scrimmage and then figure out how to deploy the resources is what's going to get the ball down the field even further, and not
Absolutely.
be married to something.
Yeah. All right, Mike, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm sorry that we had technical difficulty in the beginning, but it all worked out great. Next week, I should say this. If you like what you're watching here, make sure you like, subscribe, and share. We're live on LinkedIn, we're live on YouTube, but we are trying to beef up our YouTube subscribers. So if you're liking this, please subscribe. Tell your friends and your family to subscribe. We want everyone. We're going for numbers here. And also do share. We will post this up on YouTube so that everyone can watch it and rewatch it. We'll share it on social media as well. Next week, I'm really excited. Alina McComas from the Center for Sales Strategy will be joining us, and we're going to be talking about how to do target drives. I know a lot of our clients love doing target drives. A lot of our non-clients wonder, what are these target drives? We are going to jump in and really talk about target drives and how, when done effectively and when done correctly, they not only drive a tremendous amount of revenue, but they also focus on the right activities to build habits, which is just a great thing. So join us next week for Target Drives. Again, Mike, thank you for your time today talking about this really, really important subject. If anyone would like to get a hold of Mike, he is on LinkedIn. You can find him there. I'm sure he'd love to have a conversation. All right, everyone, have a great day.
I've been told that the fire's old, and when stars are in light, the